the channel. Today we'll be talking about handling hotfixes in an agile sprint. We have seen our famous Elon Musk, in his days when Tesla was struggling, and Tesla was struggling because they were trying to ramp up production. He acknowledged, of all the people in the world, that they are in deep production hell. So this is a problem no matter what you are in, which kind of industry you are in. If you are trying to do production, if you are trying to run operations, you can face production hell. And handling hot fixes in an agile sprint is of course only going to address generally the software life cycle or potentially some hardware situations in the operations for information technology. So let's learn a thing or two from the world's richest man on starting and stopping a fire. So the question is, first and foremost, why do we need hot fixes? And I kind of started addressing that, when we introduced this topic for today. First is, big important reason is we might have a release. Now, what is a release? Release is a product of the IT development organization making a software change, and that software change, when it is released to production, as in you, me, as consumers, or other consumers, but they might be corporations or intermediaries, start consuming that release and they get a software update. You must be all familiar, like Apple issues you a software update. Same way, those are all known as releases. And releases can have problems or bugs, and sometimes they need to do a hot fix to fix that release. Second is uh, demand spike. So companies might plan their systems to be able to handle a certain workload, but their product might just be a superstar. They get very popular, and there's too much demand on their website, and the website crashes. And that's a typical reason for companies having to do something urgently to try and resolve uh, and get a hot fix out. There could be business reasons. One reason could be, hey, unfortunately, COVID struck, right? And companies had to react and do something different, whether it was work from home or some other changes like that. And those are valid reasons, and sometimes you need to do hot fixes to address that. Hardware crashes. Hardware is hardware, right? It can burn out anytime, and unless you have a seamless rotation structure in place where, hey, one machine crashes, the other machine takes the load. So if you have a good load balancer, maybe great, but sometimes you still need to do some software fixes, to address a hardware crash. Or even it might even just be downtime because you need to get some new hardware in place. Outdated software. Many a times companies, especially when they're running software from vendors or third party, folks, they don't always do upgrades in time. You know, there could be security issues, there could be various other issues, that happen, and you need to keep updated on software regularly. If you don't do that, you might end up in situations where you need hot fixes. Bot attacks, right? Uh, there's some hack against you, somebody's attacking your site or whatever. You need to address those. So sometimes you need a hot fix to address these bot attacks. Natural events, disasters, earthquakes, fires, whatever, right? It's impacting your data center, it's impacting your operations in or call center somewhere, it's affecting your headquarters somewhere, right? Hurricanes, floods, whatever. There's so many things that happen, and those are out of our control, and you have to react to those with a hot fix. So those are primary reasons, and someday I'll probably make a video on each one of them in detail and address that, in a different series. But for today, just wanted you to kind of get a high level idea. Now, how do we handle that? So we have all understood agile sprints, right? It's pretty planned. You have certain stories, you have certain points, you have priorities. We've seen those in those previous videos. Today, we're trying to handle a situation that has popped up in the middle of a sprint, right? But you're an agile sprint. How do you handle that as a team? So first and foremost is you are going to be doing some monitoring, right? You're going to be looking out for these things and reacting to them. Um, Secondly, escalation. Sometimes um, it's plain and simple. You just get a phone call from the boss and say, "Hey, we got to address this," and you start addressing it. Um, Incidents. Incidents could be a way to handle it, as in they get flow from a service desk, across the organization, which is a development organization, and it's part of the workflow, and you address hotfixes with an incident. Triage is the first level of how to address a hotfix in an agile sprint. That's where they do the initial, uh, it's like when you go to the ER and there's a triage nurse, and he'll say, "Hey, looks like you got a fever, take this, go home." Or they'll say, "No, no, you're more sick. We need to check you out." So that's where a triage is, and that's one way to handle a hotfix. Second way is once you feel that's something more serious, you might open a bridge, call more people in. You call it urgent care or ER, you get more doctors in. So same way you'll get more people in the bridge and say, "Hey, let's try to take a look and understand this." Tier two and then tier three. Tier two is a team that's more equipped to look at logs and stuff like that. They are first level defense after the monitoring. And tier three is more people who can understand the log errors, right? They can interpret and say, "Hey, this looks like this is a code bug." And sometimes tier three organizations uh, have the authority or abilities to make changes and issue code fixes themselves or cleanups. And sometimes they'll work with the project teams and get fixes out. So overall, all of these aspects different, the triage, the bridge, tier two, tier three, they'll work on identifying a solution, right? And that solution will become part of the hot fix, right? So I'm not getting into the mechanics of how do you add a hotfix story in a sprint, how do you get it points. So those are things similar to we've discussed already before. Today was more about how do you actually handle a hotfix as it pops up, right? So that's what the discussion focused on today. Um, and then once you have the solution deployed, then again it becomes a release, right? Yet again, so you might have a fresh bug again, or you might have resolved the situation. So with that, I would like to end today's video. The next thing I'll try and target in my video will be subtasking specifically. This is again a part of a user story. I kind of touched upon it before, but I want to get into it in more detail in my next video. Thank you and appreciate you joining today. Bye bye.